How's it going, guys? It's Poetry and welcome to a guide about personal unions in Europa Universalis 4. It's been a while since I did a guide, so I figured that we would do one, and this is one that I've had a little bit of experience with lately, so I thought, if I'm ever going to do one, this would be about PUs, rather, then this would be a good time to do so. So anyways, I'm actually going to be using a save that I've been playing with recently as the HRE, well, as Austria, trying to form the HRE. And I figured that that would be a good one because it allows me to talk about a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about here. So this is going to be a guide, sort of a general strategy guide about what you should do in order to try to get PUs, to keep PUs, as well as like the conditions. I'm not going to go into too much depth with the conditions because they are a little bit wonky and I don't think anyone really knows exactly what the odds are, and they can shift pretty easily to get PUs. But we're going to talk about the basic things you should look out for when you're dealing with PUs and stuff. So anyways, here's a game I've been doing as Austria. Pretty powerful. I basically recreated Charlemagne's empire, working on it at least. But anywho, so we're going to be talking about what I've done in this campaign. I'm at 10 out of 8 relationships right now, and you can see right now I have personal unions over Spain, Portugal, Poland, and Hungary. I already had one on the Palatinate, and then I inherited them. They owned a big chunk of land through here, and Bohemia. So and Silesia, but that was just due to a bug that created them as a PU instead of a vassal under Bohemia, under me. Anyways, yeah, I've gotten PUs over a lot of people: Poland, Hungary, Spain, Portugal, Bohemia, the Palatinate. Those are the big ones. I also have Sweden as a march, but I did that manually, and Greece and Albania. It's been an interesting campaign. But in any case, let's talk about sort of the main thing that we want to do. Let's just dig right into it. We're gonna talk about what it actually takes to get a personal union. So there's actually a couple ways, but in any case, you actually have to have a royal marriage with them at some point in time. So let's see. Is there any that have disputed succession right now? Brittany does, and they would marry us. I'm actually probably not going to click this because I do actually care what happens because of the fact that I might come back to this campaign at some point, although I haven't recently. But anyways, so let's use Brittany as an example here. First off, the first prerequisite is that you have to be Christian. Only Christian nations can do it. It doesn't matter if you're Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, Reformed, or Coptic. Any of those can do it, but you have to be Christian. So that's the first thing. Obviously, that's a check for us and everyone else in Europe, pretty much. So that is easy enough. So Sunni nations, anything out here can't do it, unfortunately. Anywho, with the next thing is the dynasties. So let's just start from the top. Basically, they have to have no heir, so it would actually work in this situation. That's what the disputed succession always tells you about. In the brackets or in the the parentheses, it tells you how old their ruler is, so how likely they are to die, essentially, and it also gives you the prestige, which is important. So when you have a country that has no heir, what you can do is, essentially what happens is, if they have no heir, there is a chance that they will have a PU when they die. The reason that it actually says that they won't have a PU right now, it says just a random noble will come to the throne. The reason that is because of the fact that they don't actually have any royal marriages with anyone else in the game. But if they did, you would be likely to see that either they would have someone from a different house, from the house of the person they're married to, that would succeed to the throne. And I believe that is what is determined by the prestige. Whoever has more prestige, their dynasty takes over. Or they would have a personal union happen outright. And I suppose I probably will see what happens if I send them a royal marriage offer, because it's easy enough to break it. So we'll see that in a second. And so because we have more prestige than them, I believe if we royal marry them right now, it will then say that someone from our dynasty will now succeed to the throne. However, we will not have a PU right away. And I'm going to go into details about why that is. The reason why we would not immediately get a PU when they die, instead only a noble from our house would succeed, is because of the fact that they are, I believe it as a mixture of things. I believe it's related to prestige as well as to other stuff. I don't actually know the exact details. I've looked at some of the stuff. I believe that there's a different variety of things that go into it, like prestige and development and other things. But essentially, it's harder when you have someone of a different dynasty as the ruler, even if you have a royal marriage. So basically, say that there's no way to really force this to happen, but say that their ruler died tomorrow, you know, which is not going to happen, obviously, but say their ruler died tomorrow, what would happen is we would have someone from our dynasty succeed to the throne. Once we have someone from our dynasty succeed to the throne, they would still have no heir for that ruler. When they have no ruler for that heir, then you would see that there would be a possibility for a personal union. So basically, you have to have, for the ability to have a personal union, you have to have the same dynasty as someone, and they need to have no heir, or a weak heir and you've claimed their throne, or no heir and you've claimed their throne, but then you've already fulfilled it twice over. So when they have no heir and of your dynasty, we can't really look at this now because of the fact that this does not exist in this game right now, but let's say that they did have our dynasty, we would actually have the ability to claim their throne. And what this does is, claiming their throne makes it so that if they die without an heir, you are guaranteed to get the personal union over them. And I think that's basically just across the board. In any case, if you're ever able to claim their throne, then when they die, you will get a personal union over them. Of course, to claim their throne, you have to have the ruling dynasty anyways, and a current royal marriage. So basically, those prerequisites are sort of required for you already. But in any case, if you can get to the point where you can claim their throne and they die without an heir, or they have a weak heir, then you will get a personal union. Well, actually, if they have a weak heir, you just get a CB, and in any case, you get a CB. But yeah, if you have the claim on their throne and they die, you get a personal union. We'll go into a little bit of the contesting of personal unions in a second. But for now, let's talk about the other way, which is to use the claim to force a personal union. So it's basically the same thing. You have to have the same ruling dynasty as well as a current royal marriage with them. You can claim their throne. And what I would actually recommend, this is where we're going to get into a little bit of my own more of my own advice and stuff, which is what is going to set this guide apart. Maybe you want to take this advice, maybe you don't. But in any case, in my opinion, the best thing to do is actually to not ally people that you're looking to personally unionize. And the reason is because if you ally them, you can't declare war. And when you break the alliance, you get a 5-year truce. However, royal marriages do not have the same effect. You do get a stability hit if you declare when you have a marriage, and I believe you cannot actually break the royal ties or you lose your claim. But if you have diplomatic ideas, you actually don't have to pay the cost there. But in any case, when you claim the throne, you'll immediately get a CB that can be used to press the claim on their throne. And what that does is it's just a normal war. There's nothing special about it. Except that you have in the options, in the peace treaty options, the ability to force a personal union over them. All their vassals will actually, well, they should remain under them as vassals of them, same with colonial nations. There is a bug, I believe, in the current version, unless it's been fixed, where, and this is 1.22, so if you're watching this in the future, it probably won't apply. There's a bug where it'll actually turn vassals of your PUs into your personal unions directly. And that's actually what happened with me and Austria and Brazil. And it's a little weird. Or no, wait. Oh no, you know what happened with Austria and Brazil is I actually inherited them and stuff, so it's no longer a problem. But that is what will actually happen and stuff. But don't worry about it. It normally won't affect you too much, except with colonizers and people with vassals. In any case, though, you force the personal union over them. And at that point, what you're occupied with is keeping them in a personal union. So I can come to Spain here, who has a large personal union, and I can look over them. Where's the thing I'm looking for? Sorry, there's like a whole bunch of different things. I think it's you get to hover over the ruler. Yeah, there we go. So if you hover over where their ruler normally would be, but where it says personal union with Austria, it'll actually tell you. It'll tell you your emperor there because you are you're the emperor of both of them, or king or whatever. It'll tell you when you've been in a personal union with them since, which for us has been about 100 years, and it'll say on monarch death, and this is the important part, on monarch death, the personal union with Austria continues. So whenever you originally get a PU, and every few years you should check on this, you need to make sure that it says it'll continue. Essentially, if you have below 100 relations, or below 0 relations rather, with the personal union, and I believe prestige also has an effect, but mostly just the opinion. If you have below 0 opinion of you, they'll actually strike out on their own after the person, or after your ruler dies. Then they will actually split apart and they will break the personal union. You do get a CB to restore it on them, which you can pretty much use immediately, I think. So it shouldn't be too hard because they won't have any allies yet and stuff. But it's still, you don't want to have to deal with that. It takes a long time. Not to mention, if you play this game a lot, you probably know that normally you annex vassals, and we'll go into it in a second. I'm going to try to keep this guide kind of short, but we'll talk a little bit about the difference between a vassal and a PU in a bit. But one major difference is that instead of annexing, you integrate, but it's the same thing, really. And the other difference is that with integrating, you actually have to wait 50 years instead of 10 before you can do that. So that's the other reason that you don't want to have to, even though it's normally not too hard to reassert your authority over PUs if they break free, it actually resets the 50-year timer. So that's the main thing, and 50 years is a long time in this game. So anywho, you don't want to have that happen, so you want to immediately be improving relations and get them at least above 0. I would just max them out and then max them out every couple of years again. Anywho, so that's the 2 ways to get a personal union. You can force a claim using the claim throne thing, or if you have the same dynasty, which you have to have for the claim throne thing anyways, then you can just hope that they die without a ruler and you have a royal marriage with them, and they will probably get a personal union under you. And just as a quick note, the criteria that it looks at to determine who is going to be the personal union, so there might be lots of times there's actually a couple people married to people. And if that's the case, what it does is it looks at all the countries that are married at them, and if you're the dynasty of if you're their dynasty, then you're obviously going to be the first pick. But sometimes, again, I don't really know the exact criteria, but if there is if there's a possible a possible personal union even with a different dynasty, then obviously all the other people might have different dynasties. Or here's a good example, actually. Let's say that the British and I had the same dynasty. We both had the Habsburgs, and they also did. Brittany did. So we all 3 had the same dynasty, which can actually happen fairly often with stuff like Spain, Aragon, Portugal, and stuff like that. You can have it happen fairly decently often. So let's say that you have 3 countries with the same dynasty. Brittany doesn't have an heir. So you have 2 countries that both have the same dynasty, both have marriages, let's say, just to make it fair. What determines which country gets the personal union? Well, it's the one with the larger amount of development. The larger one has priority. And what will actually happen in a lot of situations is it'll take the one with the larger amount of development will get the personal union. However, when you hover over this and it says on monarch death, yada, 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 it'll say on monarch death, succession war between Austria and Great Britain in this hypothetical. It'll say the first country is the one that will get the personal union. So it'll say succession war between this country and this country. The first one is the one that's going to have the personal union. And essentially what will happen is they'll sign a personal union under you, but the other country will have an opportunity to contest it. And what it does is, in terms of what countries have the ability to contest it, sometimes they won't even have a royal marriage. Sometimes it'll be people who are completely unrelated to that country, but it'll be countries that are like neighboring them or that are rival to you that would, historically speaking, be wanting to stop you from getting that personal union. So like, let's say France got a personal union over Spain. Maybe Great Britain would get the ability to contest that because of the fact that they are rivals. So they don't even have to be married, but they can contest it and essentially try to make it so that the French don't do that, or whoever doesn't do that. But meanwhile, the person who got the personal union will actually be able to use that personal union in the war. They will be fighting, the personal union will be fighting for them as a PU. So that's something interesting to keep in mind. Contesting is a thing, and it deals with development size, determines who gets the PU, and then rivalries, relations, and other marriages can affect who can contest it, and it can really affect if you're able or wanting to even get personal union. So keep that in mind. And yeah, so As you can see, though, personal unions are a really good way to, like, get on the thrones of lots of other countries. Like, I have Hungary, Poland, Spain, and Portugal in personal unions. Hungary was through an event, actually, and stuff, so that doesn't really count. Same with Bohemia. Those are both ones that Austria just kind of has events for. But Poland was all my own doing. I married in, and over long term, I sort of sat there long enough and got a personal union. At one point, Russia, it was looking like might be a PU under me. Lithuania, especially when you have diplomatic and you can break relations, it's good. It's a good idea to check this disputed succession thing every couple of years and then marry people that you might want to get a personal union over. However, keep in mind they do take relationship slots, so you want to like go for the big ones, which is why I went for Portugal. Portugal, they're not huge, but they're big enough, and they were easy enough to get as well. And for both Spain and Portugal, what I actually did, or at least with Portugal what I did, I don't remember with Spain exactly what happened, but with Portugal, I actually married them, quickly got my dynasty on their throne due to luck with their rulers dying, and then I claimed their throne, and I actually broke the alliance right when I claimed their throne. I did have an alliance with them because I wasn't expecting it to happen so quickly. I broke the alliance so that in 5 years I could do it, and I just had to hope that within 5 years they would be able to, they wouldn't get an heir, because if they get an heir, it invalidates your claim to their throne. But luckily, their other ruler died. They died without an heir. Because I had a claim on their throne, I instantly got the PU. It was not a problem. So that was really easy and effortless almost. And something to keep in mind is that if you declare on someone with a claim to their throne, if they get a new heir during the course of the war, although it'll actually have a pop-up that pops up on the screen and says, your claim to the throne of yada yada has been invalidated. And that is true. However, you've already declared war for their throne, and it doesn't matter. You can actually force a personal union on them anyways. So if that happens, don't think that you're just gonna have to take provinces from them now, because you'll stay in the war, you'll notice, but don't be worried about the fact that it says your claim got invalidated. You actually basically just force their current king off the throne because you're already fighting them for the claim you had. So, yeah. Anywho, real quick, we need to wrap up this video in just a second. I don't want to go much longer. But let's talk about the quick differences between a PU and a vassal. So, the biggest difference right off the bat is that a PU actually has to pay 0 taxes. They don't pay any taxes at all, which can be a factor. So, sometimes it's like you might actually have a choice between a vassal and a PU. Like, if you got a claim on someone's throne, but you might want to vassalize them anyways, sometimes it might be better to do that. However, there are some positives to PUs as well. For instance, you can actually inherit the thrones of PUs. And what that means is when your ruler dies, in between the successions, in between the reigns of rulers, you can actually completely inherit all the territory that country owns without having to pay any diplo points. And that is pretty lucrative. And so it scales with size. So let's look at this. Portugal, we have a 5% chance of inheriting. Size of country makes it so that it's a little bit ridiculous. Spain, I'm guessing, is 0, -2. Hungary is 30% because they're not actually that big development-wise. So you can see, and that's actually how I got Bohemia and the Palatinate, who I formerly controlled, as well as Austria and Brazil, which is it shouldn't have been that way anyways, but don't worry about that. So like Poland, and so here with Poland is newer. We can't actually inherit them until the 50 years is up, and that's the same thing. You can't integrate them or inherit them before 50 years is up. But with Hungary, we could inherit them. There's a decent chance. It's only, 30% isn't too bad, but it could happen. And because of the fact that our diplomatic reputation is so high, it's almost 11, geez. Then it gets buffed up even more. But with smaller countries, if you get a P over a smaller country, it's pretty likely that at some point you'll get them for free. And that's really good because you don't spend any monarch points at all. You just get free land, completely free land, which is really awesome. There's really not any other ways to do that in the game that I can think of that are very easy, at least. So anywho, it's a pretty cool thing. In terms of other options, there's some variety of other things. You support loyalists. You don't have the ability to placate. Not a whole bunch of other things. You can do some. You can pay off their debt. Enforce religion. You can still do. There's other things you can do, but there's not a whole bunch that's super different. You can get a little bit of income, but it takes a lot more of a toll on the relations. And one thing is that you can actually enforce their culture, which will change their primary culture. I did that with Hungary, and while they don't really seem to... I actually was testing out this. It doesn't seem like they'll actually really work on converting their own culture actively, but what it does do is it actually gives you an additional 5% chance of inheriting. So it can be worth it if you just have a ton of Diplo points lying around. It takes several hundred depending on their size, but it can be worth it. Anyway, I think that's about all I have. If you have any questions or anything, please put them in the comments below. I love to answer any questions and interact with people. If you're new to the channel, I hope this was an informative guide. I'm going to be doing more of these in the future. Please suggest me more guides to do. I've been meaning to do a lot more. I haven't really had the opportunity. I haven't really had the creativity to think of which guides might be good to do. I've been really bad about that. I haven't been able to think about which things people might want guides of. But there's been new stuff added and stuff changed, and PUs are always getting like tweaked a little bit. So please let me know what you want to see more guides of. Please let me know if this guide helped. If you think I missed something large, please let me know, and I'll pin your comment and to the top so that people see it. And in any case, I just hope this helped. So quick little guide, a 20-minute guide about PUs. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Please leave a like and subscribe for more if you enjoyed. And until next time, bye-bye.